you so much for making some time to stop for a minute and think about the impact that global mobility may have on the different levels that have to do with leadership. The first one and the obvious one is the leader himself, herself, but then we know that leaders have an influence on all these other levels. The direct ones are their team members. And then, of course, how themselves and their teams are performing end up having an impact on the organization. And this is why I like to say that EMIGRA leadership is born to transform competent leaders into indispensable ones. And the reason is very simple. I don't think that we need to train our leaders any better than we're already doing it. I think they are actually overwhelmed with the amount of demand and competencies that they are requested in order to perform in their everyday more complex job positions. This is why the goal of EMIGRA leadership is actually to connect people and performance for sustainable success. And we're going to dive into these people a little bit later in this presentation. So the first thing that we see is that global mobility is a growing reality. And from my understanding as a clinical psychologist, is that it is also becoming a growing responsibility. We need to understand how this global mobility is impacting the humans that are actually experiencing it. What we know from research is that 70% of the population that is being transferred from one country to another for any job position is just something that keeps increasing. It's something that has been sustained throughout the last 2 years, but that we see that many other companies are just seeing an increase in this global mobility population. Another thing that we also see is that only 40% of those companies are actually giving the support to the partners that are accompanying those C-level positions across the world. Unfortunately, research is showing that the support of those spouses have actually a huge impact in the adjustment and the performance of those leaders that are being globally mobilized. If we then look at my specialty, mental health, well, up to 94% of these globally mobile people are requesting mental health support. And I want you to stop here for a minute. 94%. But what is most drastically here is that 70%, which is not on this graphic, but listen to me, are actually reporting that the attention and the support that they're receiving is not adapted and not efficient. This statistic is just showing us that the support that they need to receive has to be adapted. It has to understand the complexity that comes with global mobility. Now let's move into something that especially CFOs are going to appreciate knowing. Well, what we know is that when an assignment fails, it can cost up to 1.25 million to the company. This is not peanuts. This is just that, okay, just let's get somebody else if the job is not being done. This is a lot. This is a very high cost. But the cost is not only on the assignment. What we also see is that when a C-level is repatriated, up to 50% of them will actually just move to a different company because the assignment was tough, because the experience was difficult, because the company did not fulfill the support and all the needs that they had. But this is also true for other levels. Up to 70% of them will actually move upon repatriation within the 12 and 24 months. That means that the impact that it has, the cost that it has on a personal level is so high and yet so invisible that we are failing to prevent it in time. And now let's look again at the impact that the lack of support in the partners, the lack of understanding and putting into place the right support for the family members has on those attritions. Up to 80% of the C-suite leaders have partners and dependent children. That's a lot. And we are failing them. We are failing to understand the cost that it's having on them and on the whole unit. If we think about high performing sports, right? Any kind of high performing person that you can think about in any possible sport or position, they have a coach, right? And it would almost seem like crazy to not have those sports people having someone to tell them from the outside how they're doing, how to improve, observing and trying to help them to reach the top performance. Now, what we see is that a structured coaching, right, that can help them to manage all the challenges that comes with the high performing positions can reduce all those preventable injuries by 30 and up to 50%. That means that not every coach is actually well trained to support them. It's those that really understand the sensitivity and the precisions that come with that specific sport that we are coaching. Now, what we know is that in elite performance system, a structured and load management and transition support can also reduce those preventable performance losses by 30 to 50%. And this is what I have been doing for the last 20 years. I have been supporting leaders in the wrong moment. I have been listening to stories that keep coming to me saying, if only I had known 10 years ago. If only you had been there before my last assignment. If only we had had you before our divorce. What we see is that all this structure that is around the leader, it's something that is not at this point at the level of precision that it could be to actually act on all those preventable factors that are directly impacting their performance and that we know that it is having an impact. We have the data, but we are failing to give them the accurate support. So what I have seen throughout my years working with C-levels is that this global mobility impacts leadership at an individual level for the start, and this is where I have been intervening mainly, helping them to regain their inner power, their inner clarity, their inner well-being in order to be able to perform and to deliver to their teams what they deserve, but that it has an impact on an organizational level as well. As we were seeing at the beginning, the numbers are not talking about exclusively the cost of the human that we are addressing, the leader. The leader's costs actually were very, very little represented in our initial graphics. We're not talking about their mental impact, about their emotional impact, about their relational impact. I just very slightly just spoke about divorce, but we know that global mobility impacts a relationship to a very deep level. And the graphic was showing us how much those relationships are actually at the core of the success of those same projects. So if we understand that, we will very easily understand that when a leader is on the top of the graphic, right, this individual over here is actually on the top of our pyramid. We will very easily understand it that they are not modeling self-care processes, transparency, psychological safety, sharing their challenges in order to promote the better implementation of support system. How do you think the team is doing? If we understand that a leader is that person that the team is looking up to, we will very easily understand that if we are failing those that are up here, we are automatically failing the team as well. And if we understand that if the leader is not capable of delivering its best performance, the team will not be able either, and the organization will be directly impacted. So if we understand that this is something that requires time, we know that all these trusted relationships, the capability of showing vulnerability in a team is built, as Brené Brown says, one marble at a time. We will understand that this has to be a long-term relationship. It has to be something that can prepare the leader before the global transition, accompany the leader during the transition to be able to have the right impact and the right integration in the team, and that can last and not, for example, move out of the company upon return, or even worse, move out of any possible relationship in their life, such as ending up in a divorce and impacting much more than the corporate, but also their family organization. So what we are seeking here with EMIGRA Leadership is actually to partner in a world where change is this only constant. We cannot fight change. It is going to be with us. We just need to understand it. We know that global mobility is increasing. We can't stop it, but we can prevent the impact that is having on a personal and also organizational level. We are choosing sustainability over exploitation. We are choosing to really create sustainable leadership models that can actually just transfer, as we were saying, down to the other member teams. And by doing that, also creating much more sustainable organizations that are not failing to the most valuable resources, their human resources. Our core values are integration, because we understand that global mobility pays a price if we do not support the process of integrating all the different levels of their life and their performance that are being impacted by it. And we've just highlighted some of them: relationships, support system, emotional regulations, identity shift, cultural challenges. We really want to make sure that our leaders are integrating all the challenges that come with global mobility. We want to help them develop environments where the teams can feel psychologically safe by leading by example. We have understood that we can't train a leader to be empathic if their brain is completely flooded by cortisol, this hormone that comes out of stress, with unsolved griefs coming from broken relationships, opportunity losses in their last location, divorce, you name it. We have understood that psychological safety is something that a leader can only fulfill and engage their team in if they are being authentic themselves at the core. And for that, we have understood that we need to be there. We have understood that somebody has to support the leader. We have to be present from the start till the end. We need to be that reference that can help them integrate and feel safe in order to lead from their top capacity. And we understand that these also demands an organization long-term relationship. We need organizations to really invest in preventive methods. We really believe that the cost of interventions is too high. The cost of not addressing all those at today invisible and unpredictable impacts, it is too high, and that we can prevent the cost by acting on those that are visible for EMIGRA leadership. What we are doing is transforming those capable leaders that we have no doubt that have been very highly prepared for the leadership and for their positions into indispensable ones. And why do we think that they become indispensable? For three main reasons. First of all, because we keep asking leaders to be innovative. We keep asking leaders to be empathetic. We keep asking leaders to be authentic. But we are not helping them to reconnect with all those essential neurobiological and psychological aspects that will allow them to become all those things. But once we do that, by giving them the support that is aligned with the challenges that they are confronting, they will become this example that their team will follow, and that will create those companies that are going to be the leading of all the possible innovation in any possible market. This is why they're going to become those indispensable leaders in a world where mobility and change is the only constant. So most ideas have changed the world. I'm very aware that did not start with with answers. So I have probably not answered all of your questions, and this is what the Q&A session, which was the most important part of today's session, is going to happen once we finish this presentation. But they all started with someone willing to have the right conversation. This first conversation that starts changing the world. So if anything that I have shared with you today kind of resonates with the challenges that you have been confronting, and that you realize that your company is ready for this next step to turn those capable leaders into something else, to really help them get to the top performance, you are one email, one call away. So thank you so much for being here with me today, or for contacting me if you're seeing this recording. Thank you.